Minister, a couple of things here. One is having the Minister appoint a Chief Executive Officer to the IAA when the Minister does not have aviation expertise within her department or his department, as it may be at the time, that for me is a matter of great concern. In fact, I am deeply concerned about anything that goes on in the Department of Transport at the moment while we are without aviation expertise. And we've hashed this one over and over and over again over several months now. And notwithstanding the fact that the Air Traffic Investigation Unit have pointed out the need for aviation expertise within your department, you still have not appointed an aviation expert. And it strikes me that, in a way, we're bringing in consultants to assist us with various different things that go on in your department. You may, I suppose, contract in consultants for mitigating risk, but what you cannot do is contract in responsibility. The responsibility stops at your desk or at whoever is sitting at that desk or the Senior Minister's desk at any given time. Now, a 7-year term is a very, very long term in any business world. And if we finish up getting a bum steer at some stage, the situation is we're stuck with that person for 7 years. It is extremely difficult, notwithstanding the fact that there is an opportunity there for the directors to act. It is extremely difficult in this world to remove a CEO once the CEO has been appointed. So the period of time that's involved for me is too long, and that's why we put in the 5-year one. But again, I go back to my concern here about the lack of aviation expertise right the whole way through this bill. And it's not your fault, Minister. I mean, you're just the person fronting up this bill. But at the end of the day, this is going to have your name on it for eternity as the person who brought the bill to this House and brought it through the House. And I have deep concerns, and I keep those concerns going all the time. There are no aviators in the Department of Transport. No aviators in the Department of Transport. So we're relying on the people that we're writing the legislation for to advise. So the regulators are regulating themselves for all intents and purposes. I have huge difficulty with this.
Thank you, Senator Craughwell.
Just in relation to Senator Craughwell, the 1993 Act specified...
the grouping, sorry.
Oh, the grouping. Yeah. So under the 1993 Act, it specified up to 7 years for the Chief Executive of the IAA, and this bill mirrors the same. And I think in relation to the complexity around the standalone aviation regulator and what's envisaged here, I think having that window of up to 7 years would be important in relation to the importance of this role and the restructuring, which is what this bill is all about. And again, it is not exceeding 7 years, and I think that's important to state. In relation to Senator Doherty, so the process is going to begin shortly in relation to the PASS process. And also the advertisement. So the advertising through the PASS portal, but also the executive search as well. So there's 2 processes underway in relation to the recruitment process to replace the CEO, and it will be up to the board to put in place as well an interim CEO as that process gets underway. But I absolutely acknowledge the importance of having somebody with great experience to come into this role, and I'd like to thank Gerard Craughwell for his service. He's somebody of great experience and professionalism, and I think senators and Oireachtas members saw that in the meetings that you had with him over the last, I suppose, 12 months. He's somebody who has a huge expertise behind him, and I would like to thank him for the work that he has put into this so far. But you can be assured, senators, that it's an absolute priority for me that we get, and that's why it's an open competition as well, to ensure that we recruit somebody who is very capable and able, and that can bring the IAA and this transition into the new phase now in order that this is in line with best practice, as is across many countries in the European Union. Thank you.
I think Senator Craughwell wants a focal scare, and we might move on.
Yeah, look, thank you, Lescar. Look, going back to, we're talking about employing a Chief Executive Officer for the Irish Aviation Authority. We do not have anybody in your department who has aviation expertise to assist in the shortlisting of curriculum vitae that might come in for the application for the job. We do not have anybody on the State Appointments Commission who's an aviator that I'm aware of who can actually attest or test the qualifications of those coming before an interview board. Can you tell me, is your department going to employ an aviation expert? Or are we going to constantly deal with contracted in people who really have no responsibility to the state at the end of the day? Responsibility lies within your department. And I have a huge concern that we're working our way through this bill without are safe in the knowledge ourselves that there is no aviation expertise available independent of the IAA that I am aware of. So we're putting legislation in place for the IAA, and the IAA seem to be the people who are advising on it. It is, for me, flawed the whole way through. And I understand, Minister, that the legislation has been handed to you and you've been told work it through the House. But there's a long-term responsibility here. There is a standing air accident investigation unit report, and it looks to me like the recommendations of that report are just being cast aside, and we'll continue on as the way things were. And, you know, 4 people are dead.
The amendment,
yeah, but 4 people are dead, Laska here, look, and no aviation expert. We're talking about now appointing a new CEO to the IAA, who will be responsible for regulation. And, you know, I just have difficulty with the way things are going. So will there be an aviation expert available to the department, an employee of the department, paying PAYE, PRSI, pension contributions, etc., to test and shortlist any applications that come forward?
That's a specific question, Minister. If we took that, and maybe we could put the questions here.
Thank you. Again, I've stated this previously, Gerard, in previous addresses here to the Seanad around the expertise. The IAA, as you all know, have extensive and highly regarded technical expertise as they operate as part of the executive framework, but with an obligation to decide on matters within their own remit, and they work on an independent basis. A different approach may be appropriate where it's necessary to have expertise to assess the conduct of the functions by the IAA. The normal approach to the preparation, for example, of draft legislation is that proposals are drawn up by department officials with responsibility for policy. The department officials are experts, having built their expertise through their career experience and skills development in public administration and the acquisition of subject-specific knowledge. Policy decisions are made by ministers on the advice of officials. Almost invariably, proposals for legislation are subject to a consultation process, and we've had huge consultation in relation to this piece of legislation, giving rise to inputs from stakeholders and interested parties that fall to be considered by officials in the first instance and, where appropriate, by ministers. Additional expertise was contracted to advise on the provisions in respect of this bill for search and rescue. The bill was drafted, as you know, by the Office of Parliamentary Counsel to the Government. And this bill, again, just to reiterate, is principally about reforming structures to separate regulatory and commercial functions rather than recreating the regulatory framework for aviation. The vast majority of aviation regulation derives from the European Union Aviation Safety Authority, EASA, and the International Civil Aviation Organisation's regulations, ICAO. And as you know, I have consulted also with the AG on the issues raised by senators previously. Thank you.
Well, I think we've really covered the ground.
I need to ask a question here. I'm sorry, Lasker. I understand what you say when you talk to us all the time about the expertise that's available in the IA. 2 things have come together now, rather unfortunately, in the middle of this bill. One is my amendment, and the other is that the impending departure of the CEO at IAA. Surely to God, the IAA experts cannot advise you on shortlisting of the next CEO, which means you go to a contractor to provide that because you don't have any other expertise. Are we really going to hand responsibility over to some contractor to appoint the next CEO or to advise you on the next CEO that you will appoint or Minister Ryan will appoint. It just doesn't sound right, if you get my drift. I would much rather that we had an employee that was there, that you could trust, that would have...
I think with great respect, you've made the point so
I know, but
twice.
It is really, really important.
Oh, I know, and you've made it clear.
But the Minister has never, ever explained to me when they're going to have an expert within their own staff. Never.
Minister, can we just have an addressing of that specific issue, and then we do, otherwise we're here in circular form all day.
I have already replied to the expertise issue, but just it's important to say, and I think important to get the message out there, that it is open to anyone to apply for this position. It's an open competition. They'll be running a recruitment campaign for a replacement CEO. So there'll be, I suppose, two processes. One is the Public Appointments Service, and also there'll be an executive search company as well in place to support the recruitment campaign. And I think that allows the best opportunity for those who feel they're most qualified to apply. And I think that's really important just to state that.
We're not going to have a total marriage of minds here, so you have the option, of getting the vote, putting it to a vote. Right, thank you, I appreciate that.
No, let's go here. It's important. The Minister has pointed out that the Public Appointment Service will do the appointment, aided and abetted by a contractor.
Yeah, and you've expressed your reasonable disagreement with that,
not right.
and we're not going to reach a consensus. So the question, the opportunity is here. Section 68, Amendment 3I.
If I just ask for one point of clarification, because I mightn't have heard properly. The Minister said that it's the board that's going to appoint the interim CEO. Is that what you said, Minister? Yeah.
With the
Thank you. Sorry.
Minister, do I just clarify that? Is it the board accompanied by the...
Yes, the board will appoint the interim CEO designate in the interim.
Yeah. In the interim. Yeah. Thank you, that's clear. Yes, thank you. So we're all clear and we're not totally in agreement, and that's fine. That's reasonable. That's reasonable, and that won't alter. That's a reason. So, Section 68, Amendment 3I, in the name of Senator Craughwell, do you want to press the amendment?
Yes, I will press the amendment.
You've already moved it previously.
Yeah.
So you're pressing the amendment. So the question is that the amendment be made. Those in favour say aye. No. Those against, kneel. The question is defeated. Right. Vote all.